All right, we're up. So healing by design. We're not on A anymore. We're on B. Ooh, I feel like we're making progress. B is for bladder. So we are talking today about bladder infections. That would be urinary tract infections, and it'll also relate to cystitis. A lot of women have issues with interstitial cystitis. They call it IC, and there's whole books that have been written about it, and it's a major issue. So let me start, as always, in prayer. Greetings. So, Father, we thank you for this time together. We ask that you bless our time and this opportunity to fellowship together, to learn more about health, to learn more about you, that you would teach us about the body, how it gets out of balance, and how we can realign ourselves with you, Lord, so that we would have health in our bodies. We thank you for your wisdom, your mercy, your love, how beautiful you are. Just thank you for creation and how fascinating our bodies are. We honor you in everything we do. I just ask that you would speak through me today, and that we'd bring health and healing and encouragement to people, and help them to focus on you as the healer, the creator of the world, and us as the only one that can heal us. So we pray these things in Jesus' name, amen. All right, so bladder infections. So in the intro, as always, because I don't know who's going to watch which class, this might be the only one somebody watches because they have a bladder infection. So I have to say kind of the same things a lot of times in the intro. So the first thing is God doesn't give us these illnesses that we're talking about as we go A to Z. Okay, God doesn't give somebody a bladder infection and then teach them a lesson. So these are imbalances. The body not functioning the way God designed it to function. I talked about all sickness and disease basically as being a misalignment with how God designed us to live and to work and to function on this earth. So this, of course, would be no different. There's cause and effect. So there's reason that everything happens. If we get a headache or our knee hurts or an infection or whatever it is, it's cause and effect. There's always a reason that caused that symptom or effect to happen in our bodies. One of my favorite things to say is I love the God of miracles, but I also love the God of purpose, of design, of natural created order. And there's an order in which he designed us to function and live on the earth, and everything on the earth as well. A lot of people who watch my videos are Christians, are believers. And so prayer is good. We want to pray, we want the miraculous healing, but we also, what I feel the Lord has called me to do is to share with Christians that there are ways to heal and align with God, and all the things that he's given us to heal our bodies, and stewarding our bodies properly, and stewarding food and nutrition, using the herbs and the plants and the things that he gave us. A lot of times, unfortunately, as Christians, we might have a bladder infection, and we've been praying for 5 years, 10 years for God to take away our bladder infection, wanting that miracle healing. And again, he does that. He can do that. He can do that anytime he chooses. But again, there's cause and effect. There's a reason that we have an infection in the first place. And if we can learn how to take care of the body and heal the body, we don't ever have to think about or worry these types of issues again, if we learn what the imbalance is and how to correct it. So, and then yes, for anyone who's watching who's not a believer, that's my heart, is that everyone would know Christ as Savior. And if you have an imbalance and you get healed, it's the God in heaven, the one true God, the one who made you is the one who healed you. So anybody can get healed of anything, a believer or non-believer, if you're living within the principles of how God designed us to live on this earth. So there's plenty of people who sadly don't know Jesus, who are experiencing great health and healing from cancer and all kinds of different diseases. Unfortunately, what's sad is Christians, for some reason, we've been greatly deceived, I guess, that thinking it doesn't matter how we steward our bodies, doesn't matter what we eat, doesn't matter what we do. We're choosing this man-made medical system out here that's not helping us, that's not healing us. And people are riddled with sickness and disease. So it's not God's heart. God's heart is that we'd understand and learn how to align with him in health. So, let's go right into bladder infections. Why is this important to talk about? Bladder infections are actually the number one reason women go to the doctor. It's a big deal. There's a lot of women in the world. And it's the number one reason they go to the doctor. So I think it's important to understand what's going on here. Men also get bladder infections. You don't hear about it a lot, but men often do get bladder infections. I'm going to talk about what happens in the body that results in these types of infections, but men, where it manifests, it's a similar type of issue that's happening in the body. It happens with men's prostates. And so men get inflamed prostates, and they get prostatitis, and they get prostate cancer. Whereas women will get the bladder infections, and if it gets really bad, you've heard of bladder cancer. So it can get really extreme. And so because it's such a big concern for so many people, especially women, we want to learn what it is so we don't ever have to suffer from this again, because again, it wouldn't be God's intention that we'd suffer with these illnesses. Now, can He teach us something in the process? You bet. You bet. We learn, we get humbled, and we learn a lot when we're in pain and we're suffering. And so it's not a bad place to be in front of God. But again, ultimately, we want to learn from it and heal from it. So I like to talk about design. That's why I like to start with these different types of health issues. Design. How did God design the bodies? Well, we have kidneys. Everybody's heard of kidneys. Okay, they're in basically the center of our back. And on top of the kidneys are adrenal glands. We'll talk a little bit about the adrenals today, not a lot. But then the kidneys are connected with all these tubes called ureters. And all these tubes go into the bladder. And then, obviously, that's kind of the holding place for urine, right? And then we eliminate it. So that's the normal process of how it's supposed to work. And the way it's supposed to function is, the easy example I think of is it's supposed to be a free-flowing river. It's supposed to be a river. The Bible talks about the rivers of life. We have rivers of life that live in our body. It's our bloodstream, our cardiovascular system. It's our lymphatic system, which is the cellular waste system of the body, disposal system of the body, which we'll talk about in this class. And all these tubes. So all these tubes that connect us, thousands of miles of tubes that connect our liver and our pancreas and our kidney and our bladder, these tubes have to be free-flowing. If these tubes aren't free-flowing, you get sickness and disease. And so a lot of the different names we put on sickness and disease is all the same thing. We just put different labels on it depending on where it's manifesting. Is it at the pancreas? Is it in the bladder? Is it in the heart? So we name a disease related to where it's manifesting, but a lot of times it's the same thing. So we are to be rivers of life, flowing rivers. The example I've given so many times in my class is inside of our body, everything should be flowing freely and working properly. And it would be like if you went to the mountains. I use the Colorado Rockies because we're in the middle of nowhere, and it's the closest mountains to us as far as I know. So if we can go 10,000 miles up, 10,000 feet up in the Colorado Rockies, fresh mountain stream, I would drink out of that stream. It wouldn't bother me a bit. And that's how our body is supposed to be, free-flowing rivers of life. Or I can go down the street, I don't know how many miles, to the green stagnant pond down the road, and I probably wouldn't drink out of that green stagnant pond. And that's what's happened to our bodies. Our bodies have become stagnant, and they've become backed up, and that results in a lot of these issues that we're having. So we have to be free-flowing. That is the key to kidney health, to bladder health. It's really the key to health. The kidneys are a filter. So how do we eliminate waste out of the body? Even if you live a good, clean, healthy lifestyle, you still have waste product. You still have the product of metabolism, of metabolic waste, even in just healthy foods we eat. So we have to have a way to eliminate that. And so the main ways we eliminate things are through the colon, right? And the kidneys. Those are the two main elimination pathways of the body. Now the body uses the liver to filter things, and the and the lungs and the spleen, and even things can come out through the skin. It's kind of a big filter too. So the body has many ways to eliminate toxins out of the body. But the colon eliminates the majority of the solid waste matter. And the kidneys have to eliminate all of the fluid waste of the body. That's a big job. If you think about it, we're 75% water, we got thousands of miles of tubes in us, and the job of the kidneys is to eliminate all this waste. And it's cycling blood and filtering blood all day long. Why? The life of all flesh is in the blood. I talk about this. God designed the body and everything that happens in the body to protect the blood, to keep it healthy. Because if the blood's not healthy, we can't be healthy. So kidneys filter blood. So kidneys are crucially important. And so if they're not filtering blood, and if they're not eliminating the waste products of the body, then you will get sick. You will get sickness and disease related to a backed up system. I want to mention briefly the lymphatic system too, in relationship to talking about the kidneys, because the lymph is the cellular, it's basically the waste dump system of the body. So all cells, it's like, I guess the funny way to describe it is cells eat and poop, right? We have trillions of cells. They take in nutrients and they eliminate waste, okay? Just like, you know, all things that are living on this earth, we take in nutrients and we expel waste products. So cells do that. And so that cellular waste that's always being eliminated by the body goes into the lymph. And the lymphatic system filters all those toxins and then dumps them into the kidneys, and the kidneys is where we eliminate all those wastes of the body. So if that system gets backed up, again, you can see we're going to have big problems. And I'll talk more about lymph in other classes, but there is lymph that surrounds the kidneys, and there's lymph that surrounds the entire body, because it's how we get rid of the most toxins out of our bodies, through our lymph. So we have big pockets of lymph like around our neck. People get swollen when they get sick. Under our armpits, women, it's breast tissue, is lymphatic tissue. So if we understood the lymph, and we understood the kidneys, and we understood filtration of the body, we wouldn't have breast cancer. We wouldn't have lumps. We wouldn't have lymphoma. We wouldn't have lymphedema. We wouldn't have cysts. We wouldn't have all these issues of a congested lymphatic system that's not filtering toxins and fluids out properly. And again, that dumps into the kidneys for elimination through the kidneys. So I hope I'm just stressing how crucially important the kidneys are, because if the kidneys aren't filtering and you're not eliminating waste, what happens is something called acidosis. So if you took chemistry, you got acids, you got bases. Acids are dangerous because they destroy things. They eat through things. You know, you always think of the TV shows and the science experiment, and the scientist spills the beaker of stuff and it like eats through the whole table. Okay, that's acids. That's that picture of what acids can do to our body. And so this is what's happening. The body's eliminating waste all the time, all the time. Remember, even healthy food has a cellular metabolic waste that has to be dumped and eliminated. Now think of our world today. Think of our world today. 20,000 plus chemicals in our food supply, environmental toxins and poisons all over the place. We're putting in weird man-made junk food. We're taking petrochemical pharmaceutical drugs that are all petroleum-based, that are all toxic to the human body. We're doing chemotherapy, radiation, just all these toxic treatments for the body. These are all waste that the body's going to have to figure out what to do with and eliminate. It creates this acidic environment in the body. And if the kidneys can't if they can't keep up, what's going to happen? And even worse, if they get blocked, then what happens is all those acid wastes start to back up in the system. And acid waste destroy things. It destroys the cells, it destroys tissues, it destroys glands, it destroys organs. So do you want to know what, like when you had the urge to go so bad, like as soon as it hits you, you got to run to the bathroom, or women who've suffered with IC, interstitial cystitis? I'm sure some of you probably know somebody who has, because it's pretty common. There's such an acidic environment that's in the kidneys and the ureters and the bladder that it can't even hold urine. And the urine is so toxic that the body's just forcing it out all the time. And it actually damages the lining of the bladder. So think about it. your kidney tubes, your bladder. It's damaged from acidosis. The acid wastes are starting to eat away at your tissues. And then you're eating foods that are putting toxins or chemicals or drugs or something in your body that the body's trying to eliminate as waste. As soon as it hits that damaged tissue, the body freaks out. And it's got to eliminate it. And sometimes, you might not even be able to control your bladder. It just comes out. Incontinence is a common issue. As bladders get weak, happens with a lot of women as they get older, but I see it in a lot of children too. Weak bladders or damaged bladders. So again, it's all the same thing. It's a backed up system that creates acidosis in the body. And that acid waste building up in the body creates an environment to start destroying and damaging and weakening the different parts of the body. So I put acids destroy joints, bones, skin, glands, organs, of course the cells. And what else happens in an acidic environment? So now we're really going to get into talking about bladder infections and why you have a bladder infection. Because what is a bladder infection? Like, what's present when you have a bladder infection? You guys know. Bacteria. It's an infection. It's an infectious organism. So the question is, why do we have an infectious organism in our kidneys, in our ureters, in our bladder, causing these issues? So I mentioned how acidosis is the result of having this backed up system. These acid wastes are an environment in which infectious organisms live. So parasites, fungus, bacteria, candida, we've heard of that. This is a result of an environment that's acidic, and it actually attracts these types of bacteria. Now, you want to hear something crazy? They're actually there trying to help you. I know, when I learned that, I thought it was the craziest thing. But think about how God designed the world. Okay, God designed the world, and He designed bacteria. He designed viruses. He designed parasites. They serve a function and a role in our world, in our society. We see everything as bad. Every infection, every bug, every bacteria, everything is bad. Let's kill the bug. We have a war on germs. They thought they solved something when they invented antibiotics in the 1920s. Well, they did the opposite. They made health worse for people. Because instead of cooperating with how God designed the earth and learning to have healthy bodies that are resistant to infectious organisms and living with the way God designed the earth, we started attacking and killing infections and bugs like they were the problem. They're not the problem. The problem is the acid waste trapped in our bodies. And when we have acidic bodies and acid waste in our bodies, the bacteria actually come to try to eat and remove the acid waste out of our body. So the more acidic you are, the more kidney problems that you have, the more acids built up in your kidneys, the more E. coli and other bacteria that are attracted there trying to actually break down the acid waste out of the body. And so this is why antibiotics are a horrible idea. This is why just trying to kill the infection, and even with natural things, and we'll talk about all kinds of different things you can do to get rid of the infection, but if you only go after the infection and think, oh, well, I got a bladder infection, I took an antibiotic, it took care of it. Certainly didn't take care of it, because the problem is the acidic environment in your body. Now, can your body maybe recover from that and restore health? Great. But a lot of women get bladder infection after bladder infection, reoccurring, more antibiotics, and what it's doing, it's making their body weaker, their immune system weaker. It's increasing the acidic environment inside their body. And so if we don't understand how to actually restore health, restore the rivers of life in the blood, in the lymph, in the kidneys, in the fluid systems of the body, we're never actually going to fully eliminate the issue long term, and that's the goal, is to eliminate it long term. I know way too many women who have yeast infections, urinary tract infections, and it just keeps coming back again and again and again. So we have to clean up the acid waste in the body. That's the key. That's the key to not having an infection. That's the key to not having E. coli or C. diff or any of these other bacterial organisms that can be in our colon and our kidneys and different parts of the body. It's about the acidic environment inside the body. That's what needs to be corrected. What we do is a couple of things. Is we block elimination of the kidneys through a lot of the drugs that we take. Kidney stones obviously block elimination of the kidneys, so that's a problem. We need to get the kidney stones out. Tampons block the ability of the bladder and the kidneys to filter. The diaphragms that women are using for contraception also block, and they actually attract bacteria because it's a foreign material you're putting in the human body. So all these things we're doing that are these man-made, like drug-related pharmaceutical so-called solutions aren't the way God designed the body to work. God designed us and created us in and on the earth to live and understand the environment of the earth, not to create all these like man-made so-called solutions to things. And that's one of our biggest problems today, is that we've turned away from God and understanding the body, and we've turned to all the man-made stuff, and we just go to a doctor and, oh, take this antibiotic, or use this diaphragm, it's no big deal, or take this birth control pill, or, we just blindly do it. And it has caused the damage and destruction to millions of people. And I'm not saying that there hasn't been lives saved, and antibiotics save lives, and I have to kind of put that little disclaimer in there. I get that, I know that, but all in all, we've chosen the wrong system of medicine. We've chosen man's system and not God's system, and understanding how He designed the body. So when the kidneys aren't functioning, when the bladder's not functioning, when things get backed up, when acid waste start to back up in the system and start to erode tissues and damage tissues, you get swelling, ankles, feet, fingers, sometimes in the whole body, water retention, that's like edema, you've heard that term. Mid to lower back pain, because that's your kidneys right there. Urgent burning urination, frequent urination, painful urination, the strong foul-smelling urine, blood in your urine, fevers, chills. Again, the body's trying to fight the infection, so the fever is a way the body can fight infection. High blood pressure, super common. I mean, think about people with high blood pressure. Blood pressure is actually next week. What drugs do doctors oftentimes give people for high blood pressure? Diuretics, kidney pills, water pills. Why? Because the kidneys are blocked. The kidneys aren't filtering. Drugs not the answer. Fixing your kidneys is the problem, is the answer for blood pressure oftentimes, and for these urinary tract infections and bladder infections that we're talking about today. Damage to the arterial walls, toxicity, kidney failure, dialysis. We've heard of people with kidney failure. It's a big deal. Skin problems. Again, if the filters are blocked, the body will start pushing toxins out through the skin. Fatigue, body odor, sweating excessively, lymphatic blockages, abdominal swelling. That's a big one. Like when people have congested lymph, they get swelling around their abdomen. Weight gain, and of course kidney stones. Think of gout, think of arthritis. So remember, we're talking about acids in the body. Just trying to paint pictures here to help us understand disease and how misled we are about what we think disease is out there in the medical community. Kidneys get backed up. Acids can't be eliminated through the kidneys. Acids stay trapped in the body. They stay in the blood. They stay in the lymph. So what do we have? We have acidosis of the body. And we have gout. We have arthritis. And you could go on to name 100 different diseases. And again, they name it the disease based on where it's manifesting. Oh, you have high uric acid levels and you got pain in your big toe, you have gout. Well, yeah, but not really. You have a kidney problem. You have an acidity problem. Well, I have arthritis, all my joints hurt. You have a toxicity problem. You have an acidity problem. Acids built up in the joints, they stay in the extremities of the body to protect the heart and the internal organs. Again, God's design, He's really good. So in spite of what we do to our bodies, He's always trying to help us and protect us. And as those acid wastes build up, it attracts bacteria. So if you have riddled with arthritis, it's acid and bacteria accumulating in your joints. What's the answer? It's cleansing. It's healing. It's getting the rivers of life flowing again. It's getting the kidneys filtering again so that all the acid waste can be eliminated through the body. So you don't have to have a named disease condition like interstitial cystitis or chronic UTIs or whatever they want to call it. Again, it's all the same thing. It's a backup of the fluid system. So, how does this happen? That's the question, right? How did we get to this state where we're having all these infections and this arthritis and gout and all these different issues? Well, I look at our world today and I'm like, how doesn't it happen? I mean, with all the stuff we have in our society today. A big part of it is food. You know, I'm the first one that believes the majority of our suffering today is our food choices. Now, environmental is a big deal, for sure. All the toxins. What's making matters worse is the pharmaceutical drugs, because they're all acidic, they're all toxic to the human body. Because they're all poisons, the body has to try to get rid of them through the kidneys or through the liver, because they're all toxic. So it just creates extra stress and burden, you know, on those elimination organs. Birth control pills, antibiotics, again, is a big one because it kills everything. It's acidic, it destroys the good, it destroys the bad, it weakens your immune system, and long term, it's not a solution. Can it be beneficial in the moment? Sure. Are there better solutions? Yes, because God has them. We just have not been told how easy it can be actually to get rid of some of these things. Caffeine is can be a big deal. It's dehydrating, so it works against what the body's trying to do, which is hydration for the kidneys is super critical. An acidic diet, and we'll talk specifics about diet. There's specific foods which, when I tell them to you, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's everything I eat. Standard American diet stuff, but standard American diet is very, very acidic, and it's contributing to these types of issues. And so we'll get more into detail when we talk about diet. Antibiotics, just to mention again, like our medical system has created this false belief system that antibiotics are like a cure or an answer to something, and they're not. Antibiotics were invented in the late 1920s. Penicillin was a total accident, but they found it killed and worked, you know, this against this bacteria, and they're like, oh my gosh, we just solved chronic disease. You know, they were happy about it. And they thought they did. I mean, they really did. They started giving antibiotics to people. They had infections. The infections went away. It's like, hallelujah. Like, we've got something here. What happened? Where are we today? We're more sick. We're more infected. We have more issues than ever before. You go to the doctor. I'm sorry, this sounds bad, but he's clueless for the most part. He just throws an antibiotic at you, hoping it's worked because it's worked before. But if it doesn't work, he just tries a different one. And if that one doesn't work, he just tries a stronger dose, and it's a total guessing game. They really have no idea whatsoever. And a lot of times we're prescribed antibiotics and we don't even need them. And if you understand the destructive nature of antibiotics, you would really look for alternatives, especially in our children. I mean, you got children with an ear infection, he's 1 year old and he's on antibiotics. I mean, it's a crime because you're destroying that child's immune system at the most crucial stage of development in their life when they're trying to build an immune system. So we're just setting our kids up for failure, and antibiotics long-term set us up for failure because they're man-made, they're chemicals. And they don't help restore life to the human body. It might knock out an infection one time, but it doesn't restore life to the human body. Only God does that, and through the things that God created. So, how do we heal it? And the way we're going to talk about healing bladder infections, urinary tract infections, interstitial cystitis, because we're going to lump all those together, is I'm going to just run through this protocol with you guys, this 10-step protocol to healing with God's design. I gave you a couple other fun handouts in this one. One, I gave you a thing on kidney filtration, because I really like kidney filtration is important. How do you know if your kidneys aren't filtering? Well, that's people start having reactions to all kinds of foods. They ate foods, they feel junky, they got food sensitivities, their sinuses are getting congested every time they eat something. They feel like burning, acidy all the time. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you kind of know that something's not right, you're not filtering. And one of the handouts I gave you, it talks about kidney filtration. When you urinate, if you pee in a cup, it should be cloudy. We've always heard the opposite. We've always heard that your pee should be clear. If it's clear, it means your kidneys aren't filtering. They're not working. Because all day, every day, your body's eliminating waste, cellular waste. So if there's not some kind of a cloudy, foamy, something weird going on in your urine, you might not be filtering if it's always clear. So that's something to look at. You've got to look at pH. You know, think about they do urine tests. Why do they do urine tests? Because if there's abnormal things in your urine, like protein and blood and different things that normally shouldn't be there, again, there's a sign of a breakdown or a problem in the body. And so it kind of gives us it's kind of a guideline that lets us know there's something off. There's something that needs to be looked at in the body. But the kidneys have to be filtering, and that's crucial. So what's the main goal in healing with any of these types of kidney, bladder related infections? It's changing the environment. It's changing the environment. Okay, so here's the scenario. I have a fish tank. I'm not taking care of the fish tank. Fish tank's starting to grow some green, moldy, weird stuff. And the fish starts to kind of, you can tell he's not doing so great. And so what do? You take the fish out, you bring him to the vet, and you ask the vet to run a full body analysis on him to try to figure out what's wrong with my fish. Right? That's a joke, right? No, we change the fish tank, right? We clean up the environment of the fish tank, and then the fish is happy. Our bodies are the same thing. We don't ever clean up the environment in our bodies. And in fact, we continue to eat processed foods, all the wrong things, use pharmaceutical drugs. We never change the internal environment of our body, wondering why we're still sick, wondering why we can't overcome it, wondering why the UTI keeps coming back every month or every 6 months, and it's been a chronic issue your whole life. And it's because you keep trying to treat the symptom. You don't try to actually change the internal environment of your body. So that's what we have to do. We have to change it from an acidic environment to an alkaline environment. And the easiest way to do that is number one. What's number one? Eat raw fruits and vegetables. Now, we've all heard that our whole lives. And even our doctors say, eat better and eat fruits and vegetables. But we don't do it. And what we do instead is we might, throw in the token raw fruit or vegetable here and there, but we're still eating bread and pasta and pizza and crackers and chips and processed foods and candy and sweets and soda pop and Doritos and pies and just all this other stuff. And so, the 5, 10, 20% diet of raw fruits and vegetables is not getting people well when you throw all the other heavy acidic foods on top of it. If you really want to get well and you really have a bad issue with your kidneys or your bladder or chronic bladder infections, you eat raw fruits and veggies. That means that's all you eat. You eat raw fruits and veggies. You go raw. Now, you might not want to do it right now in the wintertime here in Missouri. Maybe, if you live somewhere tropical, that would be easier. But, again, if you're in a chronic state, this might be something you do. And it's going to reverse that acidic condition in the body. It's going to bring an alkalizing healing to the bloodstream, to the lymphatic system. It's going to start to clean out toxic waste out of the body. Things aren't going to accumulate in there anymore. So that's really step number one. The diet is key. What's just as crucial, or probably I would say even more important than number one, I probably should have put number two as number one, it's what we avoid. Because this is why we have the issues. It's the standard American diet. Grains, meat, dairy, soy, chocolate, coffee. I know everybody loves chocolate, so you can kind of put a little parentheses around that one, because if you want to have a little chocolate, that's okay. But it's the chronic's not the word. It's the abuse of these foods over time that causes this acidic buildup in the human body. Again, couple it with the environmental toxins, the pharmaceutical drugs, the antibiotics, all this stuff, and these foods are acidifying. So I grew up, and this is what I ate. I mean, you eat sandwiches, right? You eat hamburgers, you eat hot dogs, you eat bread and meat, and then you have dessert afterwards. I mean, this is how we've lived in America. And this is the problem. I mean, this is chronic disease, is these food choices. Most people don't want to address it or realize that it's really an issue or even kind of snafu it a little bit until it happens to them, until they actually get a sickness or a disease that forces them to change. I was that way. Most people I see are that way. I have people that even again, Christians love Jesus, almost laugh or joke about nutrition, not even think that it matters. Why? Probably because they don't have a sickness or an illness. But if they did, I can almost guarantee you they'd start to be like, okay, what was that healthy eating thing that works again, right? So it is really important to avoid these foods, especially when you're talking about acidic buildup in the body. And most disease is a result of acidic buildup in the body. The kidneys being that crucial fluid filter. So what happens is if you have kidney stones, if your kidney tubes, again, picture the thousands of miles of these ureters, these little kidney tubes, these little tiny tubes, they're full of sediment, of gravel, of stones. And so the kidneys can't filter through those little filters. The kidneys can't filter through the filters. So when you eat bread, meat, all the acids from those foods that should go through the kidneys, get filtered through the kidney tubes into the bladder and get eliminated normally are staying trapped in the body. This is that backup of acid waste that causes all those symptoms that we talked about earlier, including bladder infections, including interstitial cystitis is a big one. And I've seen whole books written on interstitial cystitis, and they don't really talk about this acidity issue. And it's all about this. That's what it's all about. What they do is people write these books about, well, eat this and avoid this, and they've learned some things, but they're managing it with diet. Like they're managing it with eat some of this but not this, and figure out what triggers you, and try these different supplements, but they're not healing the body. The way you actually heal the body is through going on an alkaline diet, eating raw fruits and vegetables for whatever, a week, a month, 3 months, 6 months. People have cancer. They might eat a raw fruits and veggie diet for 2 years, 3 years to fully heal their body. A lot of times it depends on our level of motivation in which we're going to try these things. So avoiding grains, meat, dairy, soy, chocolate, coffee, they're all acidifying to the body. If I had to pick one that's the worst for kidney issues, it's definitely animal protein. Animal protein is very hard to break down, is loaded with uric acid and acid waste, goes straight to the kidney. If you know anybody who's had major kidney issues, who had limited kidney function, who is dialysis or border dialysis, even the medical doctors will tell you to stay away from high-protein diets because it is killer on the kidneys. All those acid wastes. And again, we don't think of it, we don't think it's a big deal as long as everything's working right, as long as the kidneys are working right. But when they're not and they get blocked, meat is a big one. So plant-based proteins are going to be much easier on the system. There's all kinds out there. There's pea-based proteins, and I like Vega, Garden of Life. I like Vibrant Health is probably my favorite. You can get rice-based ones, which that's probably not the best for this issue because it's a complex carb. That would fit kind of the grain category, but the pea-based proteins, hemp proteins, spirulina and chlorella have a good amount of protein, or just eat small portions. Keep your portions small, like once a day of chicken or turkey or something like that. But if you're eating a lot of meat and you got kidney bladder issues, it's going to be a problem. What's just as much of a problem are the grains. Again, very acidic. All the breads, the pasta, the pizza, the crackers, the baked goods. I mean, the timing of this is awesome, right? We're going right into Thanksgiving, and then a month later we got Christmas. And so, I mean, this is the time people overeat these things. Now, it might not, again, seem a big deal if you don't have a chronic health issue. You got interstitial cystitis, you get bladder infections. This could be a time that could be a make or break, depending on your choices. So you have to decide if it's going to be worth it or not to indulge. But to heal the body, we got to get away from these acidifying foods. It's a big deal. It really is a big deal because it's not just about knocking out a bladder infection one time. It's about not allowing your body to be susceptible to sickness and disease throughout your entire life. Again, if we want to look at it biblically, God designed us to live long, healthy lives. Genesis 6:3, He promised us at least 120 years. Plenty of examples of the Bible where people died full of years, which means died of old age. People aren't dying of old age anymore. It's because they have blocked kidneys and other parts of the body. They get backed up, starts to eat away and deteriorate the body, attract infections. Your body's basically being decomposed from the inside out. I know that sounds horrible, but that's what's happening to people. And we're dying prematurely. I just want to stress that this is beyond just a bladder infection. This is about actually changing your life and your diet and your lifestyle so that you don't have to fear sickness and disease, that we can live well into our hundreds and be sharp and not be like, oh, I'm 50 and my knees are getting old. Well, it's just old age. You know what I mean? What a bunch of hooey that is, right? So it's aligning with how God designed us to live. And he gave us Genesis 1:29, and he said that we should eat all the seed-bearing plants, and that would be like fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and these kind of foods. And again, we've chosen the man-made stuff. And even when we're trying to eat healthy, and I made this mistake, and I've seen it in so many people that I know and that I work with, we go to a healthy diet, a clean diet, and we're still eating a heavy diet. It's not going to work with bladder infections. Oh, well, I just eat grass-fed beef, and I eat sprouted Ezekiel bread, and the ice cream I eat is, honey, it's natural sugar. And no, so all that's fine and dandy, okay? But if your lifestyle is conducive to being super active and super fit and eating a really, clean diet, and you don't have any major health issues, you might be okay with that. You got any compromised health issues, you can't just eat clean. You can't just eat all the oatmeal and sprouted breads and healthy muffins and, all that stuff that we do, right? We've all done that. I've done that. Overeating the meat. And then, again, we're confused why we're still sick. We might be a little bit better, but we're confused why we're still sick, and it's because we're still eating a heavy, acidic diet. You can eat clean, healthy foods that are still heavy and overly acidic that can cause damage in the body. Is that clear? Does that make sense? That's really important to understand that. So again, switching just to raw fruits and vegetables, even if you just do it for a month, like in July or August when produce season is rocking and the farmers markets are going, you can heal your body of so many things just by doing this for 1, 2, 3 months. And again, people will do this for months or years to restore health. And some people do it and they don't want to go back because they feel amazing. So diet is key. So I really wanted to stress that. Juice or a mono fast for 1 to 3 days. You want to really clean out your kidneys? Watermelon. 3-day watermelon fast will clean out your kidneys. Grapes are one of the best things for cleansing the lymph and cleansing the kidneys. One of the best things you can do for urinary tract infections, everybody heard of, cranberry. So unsweetened cranberry juice. Not the little dried cranberries in the store that are loaded with sugar. Unsweetened cranberries are amazing for the kidneys and cleaning out the bladder. And so you can do a mono diet where you just eat one thing for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. You can do it for longer. There's people who have cancer in the lymphatic system and they'll eat grapes only for 30 days, 40 days, and their cancer completely disappears just by doing a mono diet on grapes for a month or more. So it's very healing. The problem with fruit, I'm going to just tell you a couple warnings on fruit, because I have been confused about, oh my gosh, God made fruit, and why can't we eat fruit? It should be good for us. It feeds infections. I went down that route. There's a lot of issues with it. The key with fruit is it should be ripe, and it should be eaten on an empty stomach. Okay, so if you go, oh, well, fruit's good for my bladder, because Vaughn put it in his notes right here, and you eat steak and baked potato and some healthy bread, and then you have fruit for dessert, you just created a recipe for disaster. Because fruit will ferment and rot in your stomach, and it'll create gas and bloating, and it'll feed infections if it's not in and out of your system really fast. Now, raw living foods don't feed infections. Okay, so if you're eating raw fruits and vegetables, and you're eating fruit ripe and on an empty stomach, you won't have a problem with fruit. You can eat lots of fruit, actually, and it's very healing for the body. The problem is we're dumping the fruit on top of the meat and the grains and all the things we're not supposed to eat. We're creating a toxic soup of undigested food that's sitting in our system, meat, complex carbohydrates, full of uric acid, and it's contributing to the problem. So if you're going to do the raw fruit and vegetable thing, do the raw fruit and vegetable thing. If you're going to just change your diet and eat small portions of meat, great, do that. But don't throw the fruit on top of it. It's going to be disaster. Just kind of want to give you that little heads up. One thing I'll have people do, it's like, oh my gosh, just eating raw fruits and veggies, that's crazy. I can't do that. I wouldn't have enough energy, or I work out, or I got too much going on, or I feel weak when I do that. You can add things in to help you. You can do avocados, you can do olives, you can do some healthy fats to help sustain you. You can do the plant-based protein powders, the pea-based proteins. One thing I'll have people do a lot of times is actually fast during the day. So for breakfast, just have fruit or juice or whatever, vegetable juice, fruit juice, or just fruit. For lunch, same thing, keep it light. Just have fruit again, maybe have a salad, just greens, a smoothie. And then maybe dinner is your small portion of meat, because you need some protein for whatever reason. Do a small portion of meat and some steamed veggies or something for dinner. So you're basically fasting during the day, keeping it really light during the day, getting the fluid system moving through the body, and then just having that sensible dinner. That's another way you can do it. So I'm just trying to give you some options here. Get hydrated. Dehydration, big deal. So we got bladder issues, we're drinking coffee, bad combination. Caffeine is a stimulant, it's an irritant, and it's going to cause dehydration in the body. So you got to get hydrated. So really want to eliminate anything that's not water. We should only be drinking water. God only gave us water to drink. Now, He gave us herbs and plants that we can stick in the water, and those are good for us. So you can do herbal teas and things, herbal infusions. It's not technically a tea, but unless it's the tea plant. But getting hydrated is crucial. The best water to me is living water. Is kind of a term I use, but there's actually a water machine that we use. It's called Living Water. It's by Volara, and it creates the alkaline, negatively ionized water. And so there's a lot of, I was back and forth on alkaline water. Should we be drinking alkaline water? And I believe we absolutely should. I've kind of gone, like I said, back and forth on that, but I've seen it heal way too many people. Don't do it with your food. Do it on an empty stomach. But I think it's fantastic. And again, if the issue is acidosis, then what better way to re-alkalize the bloodstream and the lymph and the fluid systems of the body and the kidneys than by drinking alkaline water? And it's not just about alkaline water. It's the negative ionization of the water removes acidic waste out of the body. It flushes acids out of the body through this process of negative ionization that acts as an antioxidant to the body to protect the body and to remove acids from the body. Otherwise, if you don't have one of those kind of machines, you can just get purified water. Now, just purified water, distilled water, those kind of waters are very acidic. So I recommend putting minerals back in the water. Sea salt is an easy way to do it. I use the Himalayan salt stones by NHI. You actually just make a little bit of salt water in a mason jar by putting the stones in it, and then you just take a teaspoon of that water and put it in a glass of water and drink that in the morning. So it's very hydrating. Minerals in your water will get you hydrated. That's crucial. A lot of times people just go to the bathroom over and over nonstop. They never get hydrated. There needs to be minerals in the water for you to be properly hydrated. Salt is also very purifying. It's flushing. There's a couple of things that if women have a bad UTI can knock it out like that. One is a saltwater flush. Another one is baking soda. I'm going to give you a protocol on 7, a baking soda protocol that you can try. But these things are purifying elements. Think of it this way. How did we preserve food all throughout history? Salt. Salt. Bacteria and fungus and mold doesn't grow on salt. Right? So putting a little salt in your water and drinking that purifies the system, hydrates the body. Now, if people have really blocked kidneys, they can have problems with the salt. You always hear about salt being bad. Well, it's table salt that's bad, not the salt God gave us. But even healthy salt, some people will have issues with if their kidneys are completely blocked. You can put electrolyte minerals in your water. So I have one called Endure that I like by Trace Minerals Research. Spark is another one that's coconut water with minerals. That's by OGO. Just some type of minerals in your water is going to help with hydration, and that's really important. And again, getting away from other liquids that would dehydrate you. Number 5, knock out a UTI fast. My favorite product for that is the UT Vibrance by Vibrant Health. It's awesome. It works every time. I've never seen it not work on a woman. I did have a gal who took it and it knocked it out, and then a week later it came back and she did it again, and so we had to talk about the whole diet thing because it's coming back. because, again, there's the acidity issue that hasn't been dealt with in the body if the issue is continuing to come back. So it's a blend of all of these things that are good for knocking out a urinary tract infection. Cranberry, it's got golden seal, it's got bayberry, which is a berberine herb, which is just good for anti-everything. It's got, I think, some D-mannose powder in it, which is another good thing. But it's a blend of all these really good herbs and minerals that will knock out an infection. And so, do you want to knock out the bacteria and the E. coli and what's causing the infection? Yes. But again, long term, you've got to restore the fluid system of the body, restore the acidity condition for long-term health. It's really crucial to understand that. You take their product, the UT Vibrance, like an antibiotic treatment. So you take the whole bottle as it's instructed. Even if it's gone, you continue to take it, just to make sure you've eliminated the infection. And then they have a product called UT Biotic that you can take once a day for maintenance, just to prevent the reoccurrence. And again, this is mainly working against the bacteria. It's E. coli that's usually in the urinary tract. Number 6 is the other natural antibiotic herbs. For years, before I knew about the UT Vibrance, I used just oregano, liquid oregano by North American Herb and Spice. It's called Oreganol. It's liquid concentrated oregano capsules. And I'd have women take 2 every 3 hours, and again, take a whole bottle. And it would knock out a UTI. Because oregano is antibacterial. It's also antiviral, anti-everything. But it's a natural antibiotic. And the cool things about God's creation with natural antibiotics, it doesn't create germ resistance. It doesn't kill all the good stuff. Okay, because God's things have intelligence and wisdom. Man-made stuff doesn't so much, unfortunately, because they're usually chemical-based, because they're petrochemicals. They're from petroleum, pharmaceutical drugs. So other things that work are garlic. Right? We've all heard of garlic for these issues. Golden seal, different thieves blends. That thieves formula is a really good blend. Cranberry. Why does cranberry work? Cranberry actually keeps bacteria from adhering to the wall of the ureter or the bladders. So it actually eliminates the bacteria will actually grab on to the walls and proliferate and grow. And so the cranberry actually keeps them from being able to adhere to the wall, the lining of your tubes, and then your body can flush it out easier. So that's why cranberry works. So again, you can drink pure, cold-filtered, raw, no sugar-added, unsweetened cranberry juice, and that's a great thing to do. So uva ursi, and there's all kinds of herbs. D-mannose I mentioned. Baking soda protocol, let me mention this. This is something that can really be done long-term for health, and it can be also done in an acute phase of a bladder or urinary tract infection. It's the fastest way to restore alkalinity to the tissues. So lemon, apple cider vinegar, technically acids in the body, creates an alkaline ash. So it's actually one of the most alkalizing substances to the human body. And you can couple baking soda with lemon juice and or apple cider vinegar, and it is like miraculous for the kidneys and for the bladders and for urinary tract infections and for bladder infections. Miraculous. And it's really, really cheap. So the medical system, I don't want to say your doctor doesn't want you to know about this, because he might really care and want you to be well, but he doesn't know about these things. But the medical system, trust me, doesn't want you to know about these things. Because if we knew how we could use simple things to heal illness, we wouldn't need all the drugs, and we wouldn't need all the doctor's visits. So we want to learn about cheap, easy things that God gave us that can easily, quickly restore health to the body. I think baking soda is a big one. I read a whole book that blew my mind called Sodium Bicarbonate, written by Dr. Mark Sirkis, who actually uses baking soda to get people off of kidney dialysis. He uses it to cure cancer. There's another Dr. Simacini out of Italy. He uses baking soda to cure cancer. Wow, who knew it? It's amazing. So the way you can do this for an infection is you can put a half a teaspoon of baking soda in a glass of water, squeeze in some lemon juice, fresh squeezed lemon juice, as much as you want. You can do a half a lemon if you want. And you drink it. And you can actually do that every 3-4 hours, again, especially in an acute phase, because it's going to alkalize the tissues. Baking soda kills yeast, fungus, and bacteria on contact. On contact. That's why it works against cancer. Because a lot of times with cancer, we have infections that are growing in the toxic part of the body. I recommend using food-grade baking soda, which I have here. I don't recommend Arm & Hammer, just because it is heavily processed. It's great for cleaning and 1,000 other things in your home, but I wouldn't take it internally. I would use a food-grade one, which is what I have. And that's it. It's super simple. Now, what else is that good for? Oh my gosh, the kidneys need it so bad. Those bicarbonate minerals the body needs for digestion, to produce proper pancreatic enzymes for digestion. It's crucial for hydrochloric acid production. So if you take it on an empty stomach, it'll actually force the body to produce more hydrochloric acid. Baking soda, we've all probably heard, is good for like heartburn and digestion and those types of issues. I only recommend using it in a flare-up after a meal if necessary. The goal is to take it on an empty stomach to restore the minerals and to restore digestion and to restore alkalinity to the human body, not just to use in a crisis situation, although it works for that. And you can use that instead of needing Tums or all that other pharmaceutical over-the-counter stuff that we really don't need. So baking soda is kind of a cure-all. Just read a book on it. I mean, it's amazing stuff. 8, probiotics. So Renew Life is my favorite brand of probiotics. They have a 50 billion one that I really like. Garden of Life, all their products are great. Their probiotics are really good. Primal Defense I really like. It's a blend of probiotics plus the soil organisms that are really good for bowel issues. Number 9, herbal protocols. Now, this is just one we've been using more recently that we really like. There's all kinds of great herbs for the kidneys. But you got to look at what's going on. Here we're talking about bladder infections, interstitial cystitis, urinary tract infections. So you want cleansing herbs, brooms, sweepers, herbs that cleanse out the kidney tubes, that get the blocked kidneys from functioning again. I have a kidney cleanse tea. I didn't even write it on here. It's funny. I have a kidney cleanse tea I've been giving people for years that's cleaned out gravel, sludge, stones. I had a guy one time, the doctor wanted him to get surgery for his kidney stones. He took the tea and it was gone like in a month. I mean, it was amazing how these herbs can sweep and cleanse out the kidneys. So if you follow the raw fruits and vegetable thing or do the mono diet thing and you couple it with a baking soda protocol or herbs that flush the kidneys, here's what I love about God. It's impossible not to get better. It's impossible not to get better. I mean, we live in this world of misinformation where we think we're going to have these illnesses our whole life, and when is it going to come back, and you're struggling with it, another antibiotic, and it's so miserable. And it's because we have no true revelation of how amazing God is and how He designed our bodies. And that if we'd eat the right things and we'd use the herbs and the things that He gave us, we should not have to have these things and fear these things. So the herbal protocols, I love herbs. I love the fact that God gave us herbs. I call my herb section God's weeds. Okay, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, a weed is but a plant whose virtues have yet to be discovered. So there's no such thing as a weed. Everything that God made has use and value and purpose. And so there's herbs that are amazing for the kidneys. I really like Dr. Morse's stuff because they're super strong. And this is the kind of the 3 I usually recommend people do together. His Kidney Bladder Tonic 1 capsules, his Kidney Bladder Tonic 2 liquid, and the Lymphatic System 1 capsules. Because again, with the kidneys, we're talking about getting them unblocked. We're talking about getting them flowing again, getting the filters unblocked. But we're also talking about working on the lymph, because the lymph dumps into the kidneys, and people have backed up lymph. How do women know they have backed up lymph? Well, you got soreness in the areas where your lymph is. If you ever had any kind of a breast lump, if you have breast tenderness around your cycle, you have congested lymph. So there's all kinds. Again, God talks to us through our bodies. If we just understood what was happening, we would know these things. So take these herbs. It's going to flush out your lymph. It's going to flush out your kidneys. And this is more like, you can use that. Now, if you have an acute bladder infection, take the UT Vibrance. I'm not saying these herbs won't work for that. They probably will. This is more like long-term. Let's take these for 2, 3, 6 months to fully cleanse out our kidneys. Because if you got really blocked up kidneys, it can take time to get those kidneys filtering. And again, you can, if you want to have fun, you can pee in a glass and look at it and see if you're filtering. That's why I gave you that handout. So know that the kidneys are filtering, but do it long term. And then 10, just quickly touch on adrenal strengthening. The adrenals actually run the kidneys. They sit on top of the kidneys. they run our autonomic nervous system, and so the adrenals are crucial. I've done tons of classes just on the adrenals, but you want to strengthen the endocrine system specific to the adrenals when you're strengthening the kidneys. Because if your kidneys have poor function in your kidneys, most time those people have poor adrenal function as well. And if you don't work on strengthening the adrenals while you're working on the kidneys, it can be a tougher road. It can be a long road. Because the adrenals is where all your hormones are produced. Progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, DHEA, cortisol to handle stress. DHEA is your joy hormone. Epinephrine, norepinephrine, adrenaline. So those hormones are so crucial to our overall strength, vitality. So think about all the fatigue issues we're struggling with. You strengthen the adrenals, you strengthen the endocrine system while working on the kidneys, it works better. Just saying that from experience more than anything. A couple formulas that I like, the Great Adapter or Shin-Nong Ginseng. These are herbs by Jing Herbs. So Jing is the Chinese word for energy. It's life force. And they link that to the kidney adrenal area. That is the main energy force of the human body in Chinese medicine is this Jing. So I highlight that, and these herbs are great. It's a blend of Chinese adaptogenic tonic herbs that strengthen and build the adrenals. You're going to have more energy, you're going to think more clearly, and it's going to be easier to follow a good diet, even if it seems extreme, of going raw fruits and vegetables, which I don't think it's extreme because that was our original intention in Genesis 1:29 of God would have us eat. Remember, we've created Doritos and Pop-Tarts and cheese puffs and soda and all that kind of funny stuff. And again, I lived on that stuff most of my life. So we need to get off it, though. That's my point. It's a man-made stuff. God gave us Genesis 1:29. That's what he told us to eat. So the other formula I like is the Endocrine Balance Tincture by Dr. Morse. There's a formula called Endocrine Strengthening Formula by Raw Forest Foods. And these are formulas, these last two, that are going to strengthen the entire endocrine system. It's going to work on the adrenals, the thyroid, the pituitary, the hypothalamus, the pancreas, ovaries if you're a woman, testes if you're a man. These hormones are crucial to us feeling well. Because if we feel good and we have energy and our hormones are working, it's a lot easier to follow a good diet. Because when we're junky and we're feeling sad and we're feeling depressed and we have no energy, what do we want to do? You all know the answer. We want to eat. We want to eat junk food. We want to eat sugar because it makes us feel better. We want to eat cookies. I know that because I've done it a lot of my life. So telling you, the stronger your body is, the easier it is to make the right choices, to eat the right foods, and to do the right things. Again, we're realigning our body with the way God designed it to function. And so many things out there are working against that. So I won't go over this last handout because we've already been an hour. Amazing how fast an hour goes by. But it's a kidney cleanse protocol where I just kind of wrote this up. Avoid these foods. Acidity is the problem. Eat these foods. I kind of give the baking soda protocol. A couple of things you can do for the adrenals. And so it's just kind of a summary of that I give to my clients. The summary, just in closing, urinary tract infections, bladder infections, number one reason women go to the doctor. And in men, they have this issue too. A lot of times their issue comes as prostate problems, prostatitis. Again, it's inflammation, it's acidity in the body, that attracts infections. And so God wants us well, he wants us healed. He doesn't give us these things, but he allows us these things to show us where we're out of alignment, to show us where we need to change things so that we can come back into functioning the way God designed us to function. And we do that through choosing Genesis 1:29, the things of God, the foods God gave us to eat, water, hydration, the herbs, the sweepers, the cleansers, all the good things God had to give us. We will not need the man-made medical system. And I stress this is what God put on my heart. One of the main reasons I do these classes is to get people off of the medical system. We don't need it. We need God. We need God. And we can do these simple little things and not have to be running all the time for antibiotics and antifungals and all these drugs and all these different diuretics and kidney pills and all. This stuff it's horrible. It's horrible. And it's only getting worse, and people are only getting sicker. We need God more than ever before. And with this issue, it's no different. So, amen and amen. Questions? Yes?
I drink all distilled water. You said that's acidic.
It is.
How can I purify it?
Well, you just need to put minerals back into it. So you can put like the salt water back in it with the salt stones, or you can put the mineral drops.
Salt?
No. No. You just put like a teaspoon in a whole gallon. You won't even know it's there.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
What about reverse osmosis water?
Same thing.
Salt as well.
Mm-hmm. Same
Put
thing.
a teaspoon of
Reverse osmosis takes everything out.
the
Yep.
Himalayan salt, just put a teaspoon of that in a gallon of that?
Yep.
Oh, good.
Yep. That'll work. Yes?
Is the deionized water, is that the same as negatively ionized?
No.
water? It's not?
It's
Okay.
not. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. So all that water is, it's purified water. So they take the main contaminants out of it. But the negative ionization of the water only lasts within 48 hours right when it comes off the machine. And so I actually don't, I should look that up before I say that to you, because I don't know exactly the process of what deionized water is. But I know it's not the same as the negatively ionized water.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what that is. I've seen that in the stores, so I probably should know that. I might look that up.
Okay.
Any other questions about bladders or kidneys or infections or anything related to such?
You're still going to have more classes before you go away?
Well, next week is blood pressure, and then candida, I think.
Okay.
And then when I get back, which isn't going to be till February, I'm going to start doing Healing by Design Monday and Wednesday, because I want to go all the way to Z, and I figured it's going to take to the end of June. I'm going to make up arthritis, because we missed that one. And then what I'm going to start back with when I get back is cancer. Then I'm going to do cancer, and I'm going to do breast cancer specifically. I'm going to do prostate and colon cancer together, and I'm going to do skin cancer, all as separate classes. But then we're just going to continue to go A to Z.
And if you miss a class, you can go online?
They're all on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, autism, which we did last Monday, is already on YouTube.
On YouTube?
Uh-huh. You just go to my website, go to Education Videos, and it says New Videos 2015. And they're all right there. Yeah. So, is that it? Okay, class dismissed. Oh, one more? Okay.
I have a friend in my country. We have a kidney failure.
Yeah.
So how we can get a normal way? Like right now they are treating like a blood dialysis.
Yeah.
So
We'd have to talk about that, because when it comes to dialysis, these things all work, but the kidneys are so weak that you've got to go really, really, really slow with very, very small amounts of things to not stress or tax the kidneys, because it could cause them to fail. So it's a really tricky situation with dialysis. We'd have to talk about it more.
even though he's having like medical things and he cannot use medical and a normal way to heal, he cannot do both sides.
He definitely can. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if you're on dialysis or you're taking drugs, you definitely want to start doing things to naturally build and strengthen your kidneys. I mean, just diet would be a start. Eating raw fruits and vegetables would be the baseline start. Because if the doctors don't tell him anything about nutrition and he's still eating meat and grains and all those foods, he's just putting constant stress on his kidneys that it can't handle. They can never heal. So diet's where you'd want to start. Yeah.
In our country, they use the chemical for the fruits and vegetables. That's the other thing, they cannot eat raw. So
Right.
the cook can eat like.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you can cook your vegetables, but still, getting away from the meat and the grains and stuff will help, even if you cook it. But, yeah. So. Okay.